It's time for a little comedy, a little content, and a lot of conversation. It's the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube. And now here's your host, Geno Jones.
Hey, if you're watching me, first of all, you're not losing your mind. You're not crazy. I know you're saying, well, wait a minute, hold on, Geno. Because at the beginning of every episode, you say, watch me live, Monday through Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 in Chicago, 3:30 p.m. out on the West Coast. Now, either I'm crazy or it is Saturday and it is 2:30 or 2:31 Eastern Time. Yes, you're right. You're not crazy. Neither am I. This is a very, very special edition of the Geno Jones Show here in the state of South Carolina. It is Democratic Primary Day. So the polls opened at 7 a.m. They will be open until 7 p.m. So this is a show and a message specifically for the people here in the state of South Carolina, but really nationwide, because even if you're not here in South Carolina, you probably got cousins, kinfolk, as my grandfather would say. You got cousins here, you got friends, girlfriends, your boys, maybe a sorority sister, fraternity brother, just folks that you know. So as a matter of fact, our forever First Lady, Michelle Obama's got roots up in Georgetown, which is probably about a 40-minute ride from where I'm standing, just north in between Charleston and Myrtle Beach. So there's a lot of incredible history, and what many people may not know, 85% of the Africans are African ancestors that came through that transatlantic chattel slave trade, the whole Middle Passage. 85% of African ancestors that were brought to this land enslaved came through the port right here in Charleston, South Carolina. So virtually all of us have some kind of roots and history here in South Carolina. So listen, it's a primary election day. Democratic primary election is today. The MAGA cult, as I refer to it, their cult convention is at the end of February. If you missed last night's show, really all week, but if you missed last night's show, so I had a conversation. As a matter of fact, I addressed my brothers, our black men specifically. It was a message really for like any and everybody, because I covered that. But specifically, a lot of misinformation in the barbershops, in the hair salons, when y'all sitting around playing cards or watching the game. So I really addressed that. All right, I had a conversation that I would have if I was in the barbershop. I said, fellas, I wanted to put you up on game and get you to understand that, because I've seen the conversations, I've been watching TV, I've seen different reporters. Shout out to my man Tremaine Lee, does great work. He went into some of the barbershops here in the Charleston, South Carolina metro. And I got love for all my brothers and sisters, but I understand misinformation is powerful. Some folks have been lying to you. But if you watch this show, you understand we separate fact from fiction, and we separate reality from fantasy, and we throw the lies right on out. And I come with receipts, because I always tell you where you can verify and find out what I have to say. Don't take my word for it. You can do the Google or Yahoo search yourself. Like I've been telling you about Project 2025, where the plans are in writing. The remix version of Jim Crow is already in print form, ready to be implemented, ready to be written and signed off into law. Please understand. So make sure you go back and watch last night's episode. But here today, one of the ways we can make sure that doesn't happen is that you vote. So for all the folks that are upset, say, well, Democrats ain't done enough, and Joe Biden this. I heard President Biden say something a couple hours ago, and I am so happy he said it, because I've said this, especially for our culture and our community. This election is really not even about President Biden. It is, but it isn't. And he said himself, it's not about him. It's about this country. It's about this democracy. And as I told President Biden when I had a chance to sit down and talk with him and look him in his eye like I'm looking you in your eye, and I said, for black Americans, President Biden, It's a choice between our freedom and our oppression. It is that simple. So, I am honored to have a man I've been trying to get on this show for 3 years. Finally got him. He is the chairman of the Democratic National Committee and South Carolina native, doing some great work. Sometimes he don't get the credit. Sometimes folks don't really appreciate and understand. And sometimes he catch those strays, but he's hung in there. So I have mad respect because I've learned that the brother, and sometimes, when other people who are not part of the culture have to recognize somebody in the culture that's really doing the work, you have to be like, oh, wow, man, for them to co-sign like that. And it's not that, no, white man's water is colder. It's just, sometimes we don't really appreciate the work that we're doing, and it takes an outside voice to really lay it out for you, and then you're like, oh, okay, man, I didn't know he's putting in this kind of work. Ladies and gentlemen, Jamie Harrison on the show. Brother Jamie.
Thank you, Geno. Thank you so much, man, for all that you do. Thank you for what you do for the culture, brother. You just keep it real, and you bring your receipts, and that's the thing that's so important. And that's the thing that I've learned in doing this role as DNC chair. I'm only the second black man to ever hold this role in the history of the Democratic Party, after Ron Brown held it, years back. And then, of course, I stand on the shoulders of Donna Brazile, who was the first black woman to be chair. But you got to bring your receipts to this game, because, there are a lot of folks who don't, as Plies has been saying, Democrats got to start bragging more. And I'm taking them up on it, on his word, because you know what? I got to start bragging too, because we've been able to build something different, something new, and something that has really had an impact on people's lives. And I think it's important for folks to understand that this stuff don't just fall out of the sky. Somebody got to do the work to get it there.
So Jamie, let's start off. Like I mentioned, I saw a video because now, like the eyes of all of media now is focused on South Carolina. And I don't know if it was Brother Tremaine Lee who I shouted out, but I saw you in a barbershop, and it was a camera crew, a news crew that followed you around, and you went to a local barbershop. I don't know if it was here in Charleston or your home, because
it was in Orangeburg.
Home, right?
It was in Orangeburg, and
okay.
It was actually my childhood barber. Now, I don't need a barber too much these days.
Well, you still want to keep the, you still got to keep it fresh and clean
right.
now. Yeah.
Exactly right. But it was my childhood barber, Archie Fair, in Orangeburg, that we visited, and I had a great time with all my hometown folks.
So I don't know if you got a chance to watch my episode from last night, and usually Fridays is my weekend review show. Yeah. And we have fun because I also do stand-up. I'm a comedian. And I usually try to, lighten it because the week can get so heavy. And I did that. I congratulated Charlie Wilson. He got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. George Clinton recently got his Hollywood star on the Walk of Fame. But I mentioned that today is Election Day. The Democratic primary election going on today. And then I went on. I wanted to address my brothers, black men specifically, black people in general, all people in general, but a specific focus on brothers, because I've seen a lot of news coverage and heard some. I got to be honest and keep it 1,000, as the kids say.
There you go.
Concerning, because there's some people who I know that they are really about the culture and the community. But it's been so much information, and people lie, and they've taken credit for stuff they didn't do, like stimulus checks that they wanted no parts of. It was the Democrats in Congress that's why y'all got the first stimulus check.
That's exactly right.
And it was just your boy, y'all boy, who I'm gonna be nice because Jamie's on the show, but y'all know I got a nickname for him. The orange dude just took a giant Sharpie, like a 4-year-old was scribbling on the wall and signed his name on it. He didn't want you to get that check. It was the Democrats that got you the first stimmy, Sexy Red. And then the second one, it was the Biden administration. So I'm just keeping it.
Which was even bigger,
yes,
right? Because it also came with money for your children as well. Remember, not only did you get one, but your kids got one too.
think the child tax credits that would have still been going on. Had it, as I refer to it, this is my title. This ain't Jamie, so don't try to tag him with it. I refer to as far as I'm concerned, I don't see a Republican Party. I see a cult. I see a MAGA cult at its core, at its root, that would storm the United States Capitol and engage in an insurrection and to build and bring a gallows with a hangman's noose to the top of the steps of the Capitol, chanting, looking for Mike Pence. So, this is what I want to do, Jamie. Let's start off. We are in the barbershop, because I'm sure now there's some people watching us live in barbershops and all around. Explain to everybody, what exactly does the chairman of the Democratic National Committee do? And why is that job so important?
And thank you for giving me that opportunity to do that, because a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people don't know. Now, some people think I got superpowers that I actually don't have. I wish I could just take people off ballots and put people on ballots and all those other, and control all these things. You can't do that. The role of the Democratic Party and the DNC, really, it is the national party. And under the DNC, there are a lot of state parties who then go out and they recruit the candidates. They work on a local level. My primary job is to oversee the presidential primary process on a national level. So when you got all of these other national committees, you got the DCCC, which is the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, the DS, which is the Senate, the DGA, the governors, and they oversee the elections for their particular pockets, right? Governors, House of Representatives, Senate. I oversee that for the presidential contest. But we also do at the DNC is we give support and funds to our state parties to help them operate. So one of the things that I have done, and this is historical, and again, I'm going to brag a little bit too, it is we have given under my administration more money to our state parties to do the voter registration, the voter education, the voter mobilization, the voter protection than any DNC in the history of the DNC. And we've been able to do that with the blessings of Joe Biden. This DNC also oversees the presidential primary process. And one of the things that we are doing here in South Carolina, not only is this the Democratic presidential primary in South Carolina, this is the first in the nation, folks. The first in the nation. And it's the first time that a state with majority Black voters get an opportunity to vote for the most powerful person on the face of this planet. And then, I'll be 48, Geno, on Monday. But in all my 48 years on this planet, never has this schedule changed. It's always been Iowa and New Hampshire. And I love the states. They're good people in those states, but there are not very many people who look like us that live in those states, right? And if Black folks are the backbone of the Democratic Party, why aren't Black folks then getting the first opportunity to decide who leads the Democratic Party? And Joe Biden, nobody else had ever done it, but it was President Joe Biden who said to the Black voters here in South Carolina, I appreciate you, but most importantly, I see you, I hear you, you matter and you count, and you deserve to be the very first to make a decision on who sits in the White House on the Democratic side. And so folks understand that has significance. So instead of just talking about ethanol in Iowa, like we normally hear presidents talk about, you're going to talk about the Black infant mortality rate. You're going to talk about historically Black colleges and universities. You're going to talk about how Black folks are disproportionately impacted by diseases like diabetes and all. You're going to talk about Black farmers. You're going to talk about Black veterans. We're going to talk about Black businesses, right? Now the narrative starts to change, and the promises that these presidential candidates make also begin to change, because now they're making those conversations and making those promises directly to the Black community. So I don't know if people understand how big of a deal this is, but folks, this is huge. As the president says, this is a BFD. This is a big deal for the Black community, not only this year, but here on out.
So now, this is what I want to do. So the next couple questions, everybody will be able to learn something.
Yes.
But I am specifically targeting my brothers, my African American men, the ones that have a small business. It's got a barber shop, or maybe you got a car detailing shop, or you got a vape shop, or maybe you've got an auto body shop or whatever. Maybe you got a home office like I do and you work out of your home. I want to target this audience. Is I said last night to my African American men, my brothers, we want to put you up on game. I want to address some of the things that I know you've heard and I've heard when folks are considering, because now you got a little over 4 hours to vote. So now we'll really put you up on game so you can really think about and understand that you've got the power to determine whether or not you will vote for your freedom or either not vote and allow people who are going to oppress you and already got the plans in a PDF form that you can download as a booklet, Project 2025, or that you are going to vote for somebody who truly and is making no secret to oppress you and to allow legislators to create a whole new set of Jim Crow laws and to militarize local police, which means if peaceful protesters are here in downtown Charleston or in Orangeburg or Columbia or in Chicago or Atlanta and Philly, he will send the U.S. Marines and Army Rangers, since he already asked the former Secretary of Defense, why can't I shoot to kill these protesters? Not my words. I'm not making this up. You can Google that yourself. Mark Esper. Just give him a call. So I hear a lot, some of the business owners say, well, I was going to vote for Trump because I got a business and I think he's going to help me as a businessman. And then some other people are kind of misguided with this stimulus money. And then there's a whole nother lot, Jamie, that I've heard. They refer, well, you know, he pardoned this rapper and that rapper. And I've had to remind folks, do you know anybody that had a simple felony marijuana charge?
Exactly.
Who was the president that wiped away all those charges? Oh, it was
Joe Biden.
So I'm gonna let you speak to that, Jamie. But I really I want to put the brothers, I want to put y'all up on game because I get it, because there's been a focus, especially in 2020, there was a focus on women in general. And black women, because black women have always been dynamic, and we as black men know it. We got our moms, our sisters, our daughters, our wives, so we get it. But what I heard, maybe some black men have kind of felt like the Democrats, like they really haven't paid attention to black men, and they're not listening to them, and you know, they don't really care. So I'm gonna let you personally have that conversation as if we are in a black barbershop somewhere here in South Carolina.
Well,
or anywhere in the country.
I appreciate you so much, you know, on this and the opportunity to do just that. You know, I had to drag Tim Scott the other day on Twitter because he was peddling all of this garbage as well. And I had to, as my grandma said, I had to learn him something so you can figure it out. But let's first start off with the black businesses. Folks, understand this. Let's remember this. When the PPP loans first came out under Trump, I was running for U.S. Senate at that time. And I can tell you, black business after black business after black business, I talked to small business owners who said, Jamie, we can't get any access to these PPP loans. The banks won't give us any of these loans. They're only giving them to the big businesses, right?
Now, Jamie, let me just jump in, not to interrupt. I'm glad you mentioned that. So just for the record, and people who watch me on a regular basis know one of my mottos. I use a lot of pearls of wisdom that my grandparents, along with my mom, give me. My grandmother would say, one of them was, Jeannie, tell the truth, shame the devil. So before I lie to you, I won't tell you anything. I'll just shut up. But the point I'm trying to make is, I am a living testament about a black business owner who tried everything he could to get a PPP loan, and they looked at me like I had two heads. They looked at me like I was crazy. So I am just verifying, not that you need it, I am one of those black business owners that couldn't even sniff a PPP loan. And I know I'm not the only one. So I'm glad you addressed that.
You're not, but you know who they were giving them out to? You know, I'm a big Lakers fan. They were giving it to the Lakers. The Lakers,
And Tom Brady.
exactly. People were hundreds of millions or billions of dollars. They were giving them loans, but the brother and the sister who own a barbershop or a beauty salon or a small little store in the neighborhood, they couldn't get one. And it wasn't until Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Democrats took over the House and the Senate that we changed that second round of PPP loans through the American Rescue Plan, that you saw small black businesses start to qualify and get money that some of these other white businesses were getting. That people need to understand that. We also know that in terms of stimulus, you were right. Those stimmy checks, the first ones that came from Democrats in the House and the Senate telling Donald Trump the only way that we're going to give your big businesses money is that you give our small people in their communities some money. So Democrats got that done, and he put his name on it, like they always do. They don't do any work for it, but they always want to take credit for it. And then the second round of stimulus, that happened because of Joe Biden. It happened because of Joe Biden. And not only did he give you individually stimulus money, but he also put in the child tax credit, which cut childhood poverty in the black community by half. By half, folks. You think about this. We have had the lowest unemployment rate for black America in the history of this nation. Not under Donald Trump, because we've seen the highest unemployment rate for black folks under Trump, but we have seen the lowest under Joe Biden.
And just for y'all watching, you could do your own homework. That's an easy Google search. So that is not Jamie being a party man. I told y'all ass that, but I know y'all don't believe me because y'all think I ain't on the payroll. Heck, I wish I was. But I'm just going to give it to y'all straight. But these are verifiable facts. The black unemployment in this country was at its highest in its history under y'all boy Orange Jumpsuit Hitler, as I referred to him, and it's been at its lowest under this current administration. So don't believe me, don't believe Jamie. Do your own research. You got your phone. You Google everything else. Google that.
Geno, we have seen the fastest growth of black businesses in this country over the past 30 years under this president. Folks, go to SBA.gov and look at all of the resources that you can tap into now as black businesses that are set aside specifically for you. Take advantage of it. Student loans. People like to talk about student loans all the time, and it's a topic of conversation. But before Joe Biden, no president, Democrat or Republican, ever tackled the issue of student loan debt in this country. None of them. Nobody. Zip. Nada. And even when the Republicans sued Joe Biden, took him all the way to the Supreme Court, and Clarence Thomas and his boys said, nope, Joe Biden, we're not going to let you do that. Guess what he said? Watch me. Joe Biden has given out $137 billion. That's a billion with a B. $1 billion of student loan debt for almost 4 million people. And every 2 months, another 75,000 people in this country, many of them black, are getting student loan relief. If you are a teacher, if you are a police officer, a firefighter, anybody in public service, you work at a nonprofit, you can go right now to the Department of Education's website, sign up for the SAVE Act, or sign up for the public service loan forgiveness, and you will get some of your loans, if not all of them, waived. I just was in Hartsville. Black sheriff was there. And he said, Jamie, I got student loans. I said, Mr. Sheriff, how long have you been in the law enforcement? He said, over 20 years. Wow. I said, if I were you, I'd go home right now, go to the Department of Education's website and sign up, because I can guarantee you all of your loans will get waived away. So, folks, we got to access that. This president was the first president to pass gun safety legislation in 30 years. When Tim Scott blocked the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, because, folks, I want you to know it was Republicans, Tim Scott and Republicans, who blocked that. When they blocked that, Joe Biden said, okay, let me see what I can do in my executive pen. He blocked it banned federal chokeholds. So on a federal level, that is banned. You can no longer do that on a federal level. He blocked no-knock warrants on a federal level. I mean, this is a man that even when Republicans stand in the door, he says, we're going to find ways around that. He has put more black folks on the courts than any president in history. Joe Biden has appointed 170 judges to the federal courts. Folks, I want you to know those are lifetime appointments. 170. 60 of the 170 are black. Black people only represent about 12 or 13% of the population. 60 out of 170, my man may be a little off, but heck, that's almost 30 some odd percent of his judges are black. Lifetime appointments, all of them in the 40s and early 50s. So these brothers and sisters are going to be in the court for forever. And specifically for black women, only 98 black women ever in the 248-year-old history of the United States, only 98 black women have ever been on the federal court. Joe Biden appointed 35 of the 98 in just 3 years. Just 3 years. I mean, I can go on and on. Broadband coming into black communities, $7 billion to our historically black colleges and universities. Now, here in South Carolina, Geno, you know this, either we are diabetic, pre-diabetic, or know somebody in our family that is diabetic, right?
I was just about to go there. I'm glad you did. Thank you.
People paying hundreds of dollars a month for insulin. That is now $35 a month because of Joe Biden. But it's not only because of Joe Biden, it's because you all went and voted for Joe Biden. This man put the first black woman on the United States Supreme Court. They called her everything but a child of God. Oh, she ain't qualified, this and that. But guess what they're calling her today? Madam Justice. Y'all did that.
Because we were only able to do it because you talked about insulin, yes. Jamie. Let me just follow up on that. Let's talk about if you got Obamacare and you weren't able to get insurance, or you couldn't get insurance that you could afford because these big companies, or if you had a pre-existing condition, if you were a woman, being a woman was a pre-existing condition where they would discriminate. And if you were a guy, heck, if you had heartburn or acid reflux, companies wouldn't insure you, or they would charge you some outrageous rate. Not to mention, if you got family members, you got a mom or dad or grandparents that's about to try to collect their Social Security and Medicare, your boy already told you he wants to get rid of all that. So I want you to speak to that when it comes to the most important thing, because if you don't talk to any parent that's ever been in a situation in between jobs when they didn't have insurance, and how sleepless your nights are when you're worrying and praying that your baby don't get sick before your insurance kicks in when you're changing jobs. I'm gonna let you speak to that, Jamie.
Well, and I want to talk about that healthcare piece, because we all know that the Republicans have also either they tried to block Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, and many of them just blocked it because Obama's name on it. I mean, Nikki Haley is top of that list. Blocked it because Obama's name on it. So that means hundreds of thousands of people in states like South Carolina don't have health care, or didn't have health care, because of these Republicans, these MAGA Republicans that Donald Trump supports. And Donald Trump has already said, if he gets elected, he's going to stop the Affordable Care Act. That means you and your family members and your kids won't have health insurance. In addition to that, we saw many of our rural hospitals close because these Republicans refused to expand Medicaid. Joe Biden had legislation, but it was blocked by Republicans in the United States Senate in the filibuster. In order, those states like South Carolina who don't have Medicaid expansion, he was going to work around the states and provide through the federal government Medicaid for all those people so that they be eligible, despite the fact that the Republicans are trying to block it. This is also the same president who wanted to give us all child care credits. Do we know? I have 2 boys, and I know a lot of working family who don't have their parents or their aunts or uncles in the community, and they have to put their kid in daycare. It is expensive. Many times people are pouring almost all of their paycheck into just child care, right? Joe Biden wanted to give folks a child care credit, working people in this country. It was blocked by Republicans. Joe Biden wanted to give us elder care credit because many of us have older parents and grandparents that we're also trying to take care of, but we can't afford to take care of them, right? And we have to put them in a nursing home. And sometimes we put them in nursing homes that aren't of the quality that we want, but is the only thing that we can afford. The president understands that and wanted to give us credit in order to help offset that cost. Republicans blocked it. So, folks, I want you to know that there's so much that this president is trying to do because he does see you. He does hear you. He does know what you want, and he's trying his best in order to do it. But we got to understand that the president isn't like an emperor, right? Where you just wave a magic wand and poof, things happen. You got to also have the support in Congress. So that's why you can't just wait and vote on presidential elections. You need to vote in the midterms also to make sure that the right people in Congress, instead of the Marjorie Taylor Greens, who are just basic idiots, who don't care about you and your family and your community, instead of those folks, you actually send people like Jim Clyburn and others who will actually vote on legislation that improves your community, that will bring some bacon home in order to make things better in your community. Make sure you got clean drinking water. Because also, Geno, this president passed legislation to rip out all those lead pipes,
yes.
and many of them are in Black communities. So our babies are the ones drinking water that is laced with lead that impacts their brains and their development, right? But this president passed legislation to rip all that out. So, the hard part for me is, and I'm just going to say this ain't me peddling for Joe Biden. Folks, just look at the receipts. We've had a lot of great presidents in the years. I've had a lot of great presidents in my lifetime, but there has never been a president that has gotten more done in my lifetime than Joe Biden has, with the slimmest majority in the House and the Senate. Slimmest majority.
And the fact is, for everybody watching, those are not feelings. That is verifiable fact.
Facts.
You can look at legislation that he's responsible for signing that was passed, especially before the MAGA cult took control of the House. They got receipts. So, in closing, because I know how busy you are, but it really meant a lot to have you come on. I want you to
and Geno, I want to come on more often.
Let me just say this.
Affair.
I'm going to play, since it's my show, my media company. I'm going to play. I'm also the executive producer, so I'm going to executive produce the show in real time. You have a permanent home. And you have an open door. As a matter of fact, what I'd like to do is to allow you to come on at least monthly, once a month, come on, like they had the State of the Nation, the state of our nation.
And questions, Geno, if they want, you can say, build it up. James is going to be on. What are some of the questions you have? I'm an open door.
And the great thing, Jamie, the great thing is when I'm on live like I am now, I have a live chat room open. I'm going to shout out my baby sister in Chicago. She said, "Hey, big brother, I see you." So it doesn't matter where you are in the country, anywhere on the planet. If you've got YouTube on your phone or your tablet, on your PC, on whatever, in the barbershop, in the hair salon, in your sports bar, you got a question when I'm on camera live, we'll have Jamie on, and you can ask a question live. And I will ask him the question live on camera that you are asking me live in the chat room. But I do want to thank you, Jamie. But before I let you have to get out of here, I want you to make. I didn't went to law school. I don't even play a lawyer on TV, but people make their closing arguments. I know, public officials, and there's a difference between a public official and a politician. Y'all need to understand that too. But I've talked about that on many of my monologues. But specifically to my African American men, my brothers with an A, like I said, I'm putting you up on game. So I'm going to let Brother Jamie Harrison put you up on game and explain to you what the Biden administration will be able to do even more. The things that you want, and some of us complain about that they haven't done, like the reason that the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act hadn't passed, or the John Lewis voting rights, or the reason that here in this state, there are women. I have a daughter that's 22, Jamie. My daughter has less rights than her grandmother had virtually all her life, who's 80.
Yes.
So, and I've made this analogy. As much as I despise the hate in all of its forms, the racism, the anti-Semitism, the Islamophobia, anti-Islamic hate, homophobia, transphobia, the misogyny, and the sexism that this political cult has released, one thing that I want our culture and community to learn from. They took over a party. They literally took it over. So, brothers, if you watching me in the barbershop, if you think that Democrats ain't doing enough, take over the party. Run for office. Donate money. Like, so if Jamie run for senator again, he'll win. Because he should be in the Senate. Oh, maybe some of y'all, everybody can't be LeBron and Michael Jordan. So, or Patrick Mahomes. So maybe some of y'all could do like my nephew, one of my nephews, political science major, going to law school. Some of y'all can be political science majors. You could run for office. Heck, you don't have to be a lawyer or be a political science major to run. But I'm saying, if you don't like the way something is done, change it. There's a great scene in a movie called The Untouchables between Kevin Costner and the late Sean Connery. And basically Sean Connery's character was telling Elliot Ness, legendary federal agent, got arrested Al Capone. He said, he was complaining, I can't, Al Capone's paid everybody off and blah, blah, blah. What am I going to do? And Sean Connery looked at him and said, what are you prepared to do about it?
There you go.
And I want to shout out, rest in peace, power in paradise, brother Joe Madison, who he remixed. He would always say, what are you going to do about it? But I always remember, and I've used this line so many times from the movie Untouchables, don't complain about it. What are you prepared to do about it? Because you got the power. And the thing is, the people that are trying to make it hard for you to vote, they know you have the power, and they are afraid, especially to my young brothers and sisters in their 20s and 30s. Not only, Jamie will verify this, not only do you all have the power, you all have the numbers. They're more.
You're the largest demographic, the largest voting demographic in the nation.
You all have the power in your hands, like right now, at this second, watching me. You got the power. Don't complain about it. Use it.
There you go.
Use it. So I'm going to shut up and let you speak to what the future, because they say elections are about the future and our young people are the future. So let them know how, if they step into their power, like President Biden said today, it's not about him. This election is about you. It is about not letting local police become militarized instead of local police. They're sending, you got an Air Force base right here in Charleston. You got the Marine base down Beaufort. We don't want them sending the Marines and people in the Air Force and Army Rangers literally shooting and killing our young brothers and sisters of all races because they are peacefully protesting. So what can stop that? Jamie's going to tell you what you can do to change it. If you don't like it and you complain about it, he's going to tell you how you can take control of your power and what, if you help protect really your freedom as opposed to let people oppress you. President Biden is just a vessel to help save this democracy and to preserve not just the freedoms we have, but to expand more. Jamie, thank you for being my guest, man. I'll let you close.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. And, one of the things that I just chatted with a young person on the campus of South Carolina State yesterday, and she asked me, she was, what can I tell folks in my generation? And I told her just that. I said, you all are the biggest voting demographic in the country, but you also the lowest performing demographic in the country. That you don't exercise your power. Rather, you sit on the sidelines and be silent about it or complain about it, but you don't exercise the power that you have to transform this nation in the way that you want to transform it. You think about it, every single thing in our life is impacted by somebody that we vote for. Everything. From your insurance rates that you pay, some elected official appoint somebody on that or influences that, to when you can get your driver's license. If you want to get driver's license at 16, guess how you change that? You got to vote for people to change the law in order to get it. To even where you are buried when you die.
And
right?
Wait, Jamie, if you don't mind, let me jump in. I got a great one. For those who want reparations, you know how you got to get. You know how you get reparations? It has to be voted on by Congress. So if you say, well, I ain't got reparations, I ain't going to vote, you ain't never going to see them if you don't vote, because you have to put politicians in office that will hear you and at least have conversations to where we can come up with some real reparations for our culture. I had to throw that one in there.
No, listen, I tell folks all the time who come up to me with reparations, I'd be like, y'all don't need to come to me. Go to the Republicans. Do you know that in order to get a bill to the president's desk, you got to have 60 votes in the United States Senate because there's a filibuster? And if you can't give me 10 or 12 Republicans that are going to vote for it, then it ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. So instead of you coming and protesting Democrats, why aren't you going to protest Tim Scott? I never see y'all over there.
And
I never see you at Lindsey Graham.
Or Nikki Haley. Right? Holler at them.
Or Nikki Haley. I never see you stand up and protest there. But in order to get it done, you are going to have to get some of them to come over, or you got to give us 60 votes in the Senate in order to move forward on it, right? It ain't going to just come out of the sky. It ain't going to be a magic wand in order to wave it. You got to understand the rules. One of the things I always learned on the Hill from Jim Clyburn, he said, Jamie, the most powerful people in Congress are the people who understand the rules by which you get Congress to act. If you don't know how the rules and how to navigate this place, you can have all the good intentions in the world. You can give the best speeches possible on the floor of the House. It does not matter if you don't get 218 votes in the House and 60 votes in the United States Senate. All of it is a bunch of hot air, and you feel good about it afterwards, but it ain't moving legislation one bit. You've got to understand this process and how this process works in order to get it to the president's desk, because he can't just will it there. It has to go there. And if we know that these Republicans, these MAGA Republicans who have a majority in the House and can't do anything, how in the world are we expecting magic in order to take place? And that is why I go back to, folks, the hope is so important. Faith is so important. But we know in the good book, it says faith without works is dead and hope without action is never realized.
Preach.
The thing that you have to do is vote. That's the action that has to take. That's the energy that you need in order to move the things in the way you want it to move. And so I say to young people, I say to Black men, decide on the world that you want, and then make sure you vote for people who can get you there.
Or run yourself. Some of y'all need
run
to run
yourself. That is what my wife said. When you know how I ran for the U.S. Senate, Geno? I sat and watched those Kavanaugh hearings, and I saw Lindsey Graham, and I said to her, we really got to find somebody to run against Lindsey Graham. I said, I saw how red-faced he was and angry and, all those other stuff. And I said, we got to find somebody. And she turned to me and she said, well, ain't you somebody? That is when that seed was planted in my head, because I never thought I was going to run for the Senate against Lindsey Graham or anybody. But it was that moment that she planted that seed in my head. We are somebody. We got to understand our value and our power, and we got to stand up. And even when we come short, we don't know the seeds that we continue to plant. I am here today because in 1988, I watched Jesse Jackson stand on the stage in Atlanta at the Democratic National Convention and talk to the camera and talk directly to young people and say that young people, hope is real. You can make this world into what you want. And that sparked in me this interest in politics. And my hope is that even though I came short in my U.S. Senate race, there was some young person, some young woman or young boy who saw me on a YouTube ad and said, you know what? Maybe I can do that. And then maybe they become the first Black governor of South Carolina, or maybe they become a United States senator, or even maybe they become the next president of the United States down the road, right? We do this in order to affect change, and sometimes it doesn't happen when we want it, but if we don't do anything, it will never happen. And so I encourage everybody, go and work hard. I'm working my heart out. And I know it's hard, and sometimes it's so painful to hear, I know Joe Biden gets up every single day thinking about how he can make life better for people. He does. I've seen it firsthand. When the Mother Emanuel disaster happened, Geno, everybody remembers Barack Obama saying Amazing Grace, but nobody probably remembers that Joe Biden, a week or two when the church first opened, he and Dr. Biden, without a press release, without cameras, went and worshiped and prayed with the parishioners at Mother Emanuel.
He talked about that when I had the sit-down conversation. He talked about it, and then he got very personal, and I almost brought him to tears. He talked about how at that moment, I think that was around the time
Bo had just, yes.
And he said that they really kind of restored his faith
That's
and
exactly right.
energized him, that he came to help them heal. They helped him. They healed him, helped him heal.
That's exactly. He's a good man. And in politics, folks, you're not always going to agree with everybody on 100% of the things. I love my wife more than life itself, and we don't agree on every damn thing. So why in the world do we think that then a politician is somebody that we're going to agree on 100% of things? But what you got to do is you got to find somebody whose values align with your own. You got to find somebody do you think is good enough that is going to fight for you and your families and your communities. And I can tell you, Donald Trump sure as heck ain't. I know it. We've seen it from his not only his words but his actions. He don't care about us in our community, right? We know that. Because if he did, he wouldn't have appointed the most right-wing justices that would got rid of Roe versus Wade so women don't control their own bodies, who got rid of affirmative action, who are trying to destroy DEI because they don't value that. But we have a president right now who, through his actions, he's appointed more people of color to his administration than any other, more people of color to the judiciary than any other. Hell, he changed the presidential primary to put black folks and brown folks first instead of behind. So the people whose progeny picked cotton, were enslaved in bonds, are now the very first people to pick the president of the United States. And that only happened because the president made it happen. And so I want folks to understand that. Look not only at the words, but the actions behind those words and the intentions that those folks have for the community. So, I close with that, folks. I mean, listen, we got to make sure we stand up. We can't be silent. And you are silent if you don't exercise your right to vote. You are silent. And so don't give me your complaints because I don't want to hear them if you don't go and vote. And as I just told my family today, I said, I need all y'all in South Carolina to go vote. I said, and I can look up and see if you did. Right on, I can find you if you didn't go vote. So folks, just go and exercise your right. Make sure that you exercise that right. Make sure you stand up. If you don't do it for yourself, do it for the people that you love. Do it for the people that you love. Do it for the next generation because they need us to protect their interests. They need us to make sure that the future is bright. I do it for my two boys. That's why I work as hard as I do. That's why I go across this country. Even when Geno, my son, I come home and he said, Daddy, I'm glad you came home because I didn't know if I would recognize you the next time.
Wow,
because I'm always on the road
wow.
because I understand what is at stake in this election. And so I don't do it just for me. I do it for all the people I love, and I do it for my community because I know if we allow our freedoms to be taken away now, we'll never get them back. We will never get them back. And that's what's at stake in this election.
Please understand, everybody watching me, especially to those who look like us, it is a choice. I commend President Biden. He said this election is not about him. And I've been telling you all that for a couple years now. This is not about him. This is not even about orange jumpsuit Hitler. This is about people around them that understand politics and understand legislation, the same people that crafted the Jim Crow laws, the same laws that Adolf Hitler sent a Nazi lawyer from Berlin, from Germany in 1933 to the University of Arkansas's law school to study America's Jim Crow laws, to say, well, damn, with this Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and it says all men are created equal, but how could they have that and still have a whole set of laws to oppress and legally take away every right and allow lynching and murder and rape with impunity without anyone being held accountable? Who in the hell wrote that? Man, we need to copy and paste. Go over there and see what they are doing. The Nuremberg laws. Google the Nuremberg laws. The Nuremberg laws are just a remixed version of America's Jim Crow laws. And they copy and pasted them, and they sent the Nazi lawyer to a law school in the South, in the Jim Crow South, and then copy and pasted them and just separate, erased and replaced Negro with Jew. They got a whole new set. I'm going to keep saying it. I want you, y'all in the barbershop, when we get off, Get your phone. You got the damn iPad you done spent $2,000 on. Just Google Project 2025. They're not even trying to hide it, Jamie. Saying the quiet part out loud. They just saying it. They showing you.
Geno, I want you to bring Jim Clyburn on, and I want him to tell the story of the 1876 election. And it's going to give you goosebumps. We got Jim Crow established in the South because of one vote. One vote is what determined how we got moved from Reconstruction to Jim Crow. One single vote. So if people think that their vote doesn't matter, it doesn't count, it was one vote that forced black folks in this country to live under Jim Crow for almost 100 years. One vote.
That allowed all the lynching, the rape, the murder,
the hate,
the burning down of Tulsa, the Greenwood District in Tulsa, the race massacres, what happened in Wilmington, North Carolina, what happened in Orangeburg, the Red Summer of 1919 in Chicago and in cities all across Rosewood, Florida.
That's exactly.
Did you hear what the man just said?
Y'all
vote? Watching in the bar? One vote. Allow all of that to happen. And if you don't think it can happen again, I'm putting you up on game. Not only can it happen again.
This is, folks, black folks, this is an F around and find out moment.
Yes. Okay.
That's what this is.
That's drop the mic. Jamie, I guess Jamie,
I'm just speaking as plain as I can.
Jamie has been watching my show because at least he did. He cleaned it up a little bit. Yes, but you can F around and find out if you want to. But this movement, this cult, they are serious. They believe this with all of their heart and soul. But why not? Their great-grandparents, they didn't just believe it. They wrote the laws. They wrote the Jim Crow laws. Why would you necessarily expect the lineage, their great-grandchildren, to have a different ideology? Now, fortunately, many of them do, but some don't. So we're putting you up on game. So, Jamie, we will see you on a regular basis. We've just created a new feature where we're going to have this conversation once a month. I'm going to reach out to your team or you. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make sure that your team's got my cell number. I'm going to make sure that they give it to you personally, or I want you to get it from them personally. Julia and Michael Tyler, they have my personal cell. So you save me to your contacts, and I'm going to reach out to you, and we'll find a day that works for you where you can come on at 6:30. Monday through Friday. We'll pick a designated day and promote it ahead of time and let everybody know you're coming back. And if they got questions or concerns or feel they're not being heard, we're going to have that conversation like they have in the barbershop. We're going to keep it real. There we go. Because we're living in some very real serious times. And we owe it to our grandparents and great-grandparents. Jamie, my grandfather... So my grandfather he was in his 70s when I was born. My grandparents raised me along with my mom. We lived with my grandparents.
Same here.
My grandfather was born in 1888. He lived to be 94 in a little small town, Yazoo City, Mississippi. He became what they called, then he was a tailor, but he was a designer because he made suits for men and women. He made dresses. He could make you a suit that fits you like somebody poured it on with hot butter in a day. And I know because he and I shared a bedroom. My mother and grandmother were in one bedroom. We had a 2-flat apartment in Chicago on the 2nd floor. My grandfather and myself shared the middle bedroom. My 2 sisters were in the back bedroom. He had 2 professional-sized sewing machines. And there were many nights that the sound of that sewing machine motor put me to sleep. And I would wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning to get ready to go to school. He would still be sewing, or he would just finish sewing. So the point I'm trying to make is that our ancestors, they dreamed all those trees here in South Carolina to where our ancestors were hung from, that we, Jamie Harrison, chairman of the Democratic Party, myself, media personality, entertainer, people like Barack Obama or Michael Jordan or LeBron James or Michelle Obama or Oprah or Beyonce. We are what our ancestors dreamed about.
Exactly right.
And they sacrificed so that enough of them could survive long enough for us to live out their dreams. So we owe it to them, and you owe it to yourself. So I'm done. The doors of the church are open for Pastor Jamie Harrison, because he did a great job. Thank you, man. I can't thank you enough. This was a great conversation. Listen, everybody, you have 4 hours. What you got now? You got about 3.5 hours to vote. So there's no excuse. It's a beautiful sunny day. There's no rain. Even if it was, it didn't matter. Just think about what our ancestors, when they were working out in the fields, they didn't let them say, well, it's cold and it's rainy, so you ain't got to pick cotton. They didn't give a, none of that mattered. They had to work. So the least we could do is vote on a bright, sunny day where the weather's real nice here in South Carolina anyway. Jamie, thank you, man. If people want to contact you, if they want to work with the DNC, if y'all got some in the barbershop, y'all got some complaints, they ain't listening to you, you think they need to be doing something, reach out to Jamie. You can talk to him, invite him to come to your barbershop. Like, you know, I've seen everybody on TV talking about the conversations you having in the barbershop. Call the brother, reach out to him, invite him to your barbershop, set up a voter registration drive or whatever. Jamie, you got social media contact where everybody can contact
folks
you.
You can always follow me on X. You can follow me on Threads at Harrison Jamie, and Jamie spelled Jaime. So at Harrison Jamie, follow me, DM me. I'm pretty responsive. You can also, if you want to volunteer, go to Democrats.org. Sign up to volunteer locally. Find out where your local South Carolina, your local Democratic Party office is. They need your help. They need your thoughts and your guidance. But thank you again for having me on. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, man. This conversation I was looking forward to it, but it went even better than I'd even dreamed. So, like I said, you are now a permanent member of the show. So you all are going to see Jamie at least every month. And if there's something important that needs to be said, you'll see him on before that, because it's my show and my media company. So I'm the boss. I get to decide how much he got. Heck, he can co-host the damn show as far as I'm concerned. So we're going to make that happen. Thank you, Jamie. God bless you, man. May God
bless you, too. And God bless Black-owned media. It is so important. So thank you,
man. And may God continue to bless and have favor on you, your family. And you're lucky man like you married up. Somebody
I married up. Big time. Big time.
Like they say, you somebody, don't complain about it. Yeah, I've had similar conversations with Damaris in the other room. She's had those come to Jesus like, well, what you gonna do about it, Mr.
There we go.
Thank you, brother. God bless you.
Take care.
All right.
Go vote, folks. Bye-bye.
You got 3.5 hours, everybody. Thank you for watching. That was really such a fun conversation, but it was real. So I hope everybody's watching, especially you know, specifically my brothers and sisters, because there's a lot of talk in the media. Oh, yeah, black men are the Democrats. They don't. Be careful who you listen to, okay? Because I'm gonna give it to you real, straight, no chaser. Before I lie to you, I'm not gonna tell you anything. Like I said, my grandmother said, "Jeannie, tell the truth, shame the devil." So that's what we do here. But for those who watch me on a regular basis, y'all know that. Thank you for letting me be a part of your life. God bless each and every one of you, and especially you, God, most of all. Thank you for letting me do the Geno Jones Show. This is a very special live edition, Saturday live edition of the Geno Jones Show. Now, my normal times and days are Monday through Friday. We go live Monday through Friday, 6:30 p.m. on the East Coast here in the Charleston, South Carolina Metro. 5:30 if you're in Chicago, or if you're in Milwaukee, St. Louis, Memphis, Dallas, Houston, New Orleans. 6:30 in Atlanta, 6:30 in New York, 6:30 in Philly. If you're out on the West Coast, in LA, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, 3:30. If you're in Colorado, with Coach Dion Prime Time Sanders playing for the University of Colorado, Mountain Time, We come on at 4:30, Monday through Friday. But please understand, if you miss this show live, shame on you, really, shame on you. But I understand. The good news, you can go back and binge watch every episode and any episode. And you can watch it as many times. You can watch this conversation that Jamie and I had as much as you want. Play it in the barbershops, and you going in the barbershop, tell your barber to put this on the big TV to get the Super Bowl is another 8 days away. So it ain't nothing on TV anyway. So play this show back. Play this conversation back in the hair salons, at the house. Ain't no movie on. You can't find that on Netflix or Amazon Prime or on cable. Just put the Geno Jones Show on and binge watch all these back episodes. Subscribe and share, and you can screen grab it, grab some of this, and make this conversation go viral, like y'all did with Cat Williams and Club Shay, my man, Shannon Sharp. Let's make this one go viral. Subscribe, share, screen grab, like, and binge watch all my back episodes. Have a great weekend. South Carolina, Democratic primary going on right now. You still have 3.5 hours to vote. The polls close at 7 p.m. Eastern Time here in South Carolina. And if you are in line at 7 p.m., if you are in line by 7 p.m., oh, they got to let you vote. You can tell them I said it. But that's in law, in writing. If you are in line by 7 p.m., your vote will be cast. So you stay your ass in that line. Don't let nobody tell you otherwise. You got in line before 7. If it's a long line, you got a right to vote. I'll see you live Monday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for watching. Once again, thank you to Brother Jamie Harrison, the chairman of the Democratic National Committee. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Subscribe and tune in to the next episode of The Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube.